Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for episode 66 of our Saved You a Seat webinars. We are going to be covering tips and tricks for the SoftPro Select software today. We're going to be joined by Jo Vicknair. She's a SoftPro trainer here, and she's going to show you all the fun things that you may not know about your Select software. And just a couple notes before we get started. This episode is specifically for the Select edition of the SoftPro software. So if you use either our standard edition or our enterprise edition, this is not the episode for you. We have a standard tips and tricks episode that we also host. And if you happen to miss any of those past standard tips and tricks episodes, you can view them on our blog at blog.softprocorp.com. If you're a Select customer who's joined us today and missed our part 1 tips and tricks episode from earlier this year, you can also go back and view that on our blog. Today's episode will also be recorded and made available on our blog likely tomorrow. So if you want to go back and review any of the information or share it with any colleagues, you are welcome to do so. And if you have any questions during today's episode, feel free to drop them in the question box and we'll do our best to get to as many of those questions as we can during the webinar. And I think that covers it. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Jo, to get started.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me this morning, Ellen. Hi, everyone. My name is Jo. I am a trainer here at SoftPro, and I'm super excited to be here with you all as we wrap up this 2-part series of the Select edition of Tips and Tricks. Now, kind of reiterating sentiments Ellen has already relayed, want to highly encourage you to submit those questions. Ellen, by all means, feel free to pause, stop, and shout out those so that we can need. Now, I always like to start off with keyboard shortcuts, and some of this information may be a review. Maybe you already know that, or maybe you forgot that you've already known that, right? It's just been lingering in the back of the brain. What I want to do is start out with these keyboard shortcuts so that we can bring it forward. I want you to pass this information along to your team so that everyone is off to a strong start this week. So thought I'd start with some keyboard shortcuts. You have some immediate keyboard shortcuts directly on your start page. We know that anytime and every time we launch Select, we are going to start on that start page tab. And we've got a lot of functionalities here, very obvious places where we can create a new order. You can create a new order by keyboard shortcut. That keyboard shortcut is going to be Control-N. When you click on Control-N, it's going to open up that new order dialog window. It would be the same new order dialog window if you were using your recently viewed items. Your quick access toolbar, anything, or the functionality within its ProForm ribbon. So again, keyboard shortcut to open up that new order dialog window was Control-N. From there, you'd make any selections as far as prefixes, suffixes, your trust account, settlement type, and don't forget to pull in a template whenever you're creating those new orders. So Control-N will open up a new order dialog window. You can also print a report by keyboard shortcut. So since I am in my ProForm module, I'm going to click on that third icon so that I can launch my ProForm report tree. And I am going to render a report. Just going to pull in any information. So allow me to just bypass these formatting options. But printing a report by keyboard shortcut would be Control-P. So again, keyboard shortcut to print a report within Select would be Control-P. Make sure you have the correct printer pulled in before ultimately clicking OK. Begin printing this report. Now, you've got a keyboard shortcut to access your work list items. I know that I can always access these work list items, my orders, my individual task within those orders that are specifically assigned to me. I can do that through task summary. Keyboard shortcut of Control-W will open up your work items as well. They will appear in a collapsible pane at the bottom of your screen. It will do just that, auto collapse when I hover away. But if you'd like to keep this pane open, you can push the pin on the far right-hand side. From there, I would be able to resize as I wanted to, and I can actually disconnect this collapsible pane from this start page screen entirely. You do have to have the pen pushed over in the right side first before you can hold this pane with your cursor. I'm using my mouse, but hold it with your cursor and begin dragging it towards the center of your screen. I'm going to see this docking icon appear. I can decide where I'd like to send it. It's all about your working preferences, so left, right, up, or down. I could even leave this completely disconnected from my Select application. And I'm thinking about those that have dual monitors, right? Maybe we've got like kind of a gamer setup going on our end. Here's where I could pull my work items over to my second monitor. I'm able to keep the pane open the entire time. I can monitor it throughout my training day. And again, what we had to do was push the pin on the right side. From there, it kept the pane from auto collapsing. I was able to hold the pane with my cursor. When holding it with your cursor and you begin dragging it towards the center of your screen, you'll wait for that docking icon to appear and you're going to tell it where to go. Again, to open up this work list items, you can do that by keyboard shortcut of Control W. Now, if I make my way into an order, wanted to talk about this next keyboard shortcut to a functionality that may be lesser known, and that is because it's permission-based. It's called our formula editor, and keyboard shortcut to access your formula editor, if you have permissions granted, would be F8 on your keyboard. And what can the formula editor do for you? Well, it can allow customizations to your individual orders so that certain activities, happenings occur on your behalf. That's going to be based on your organization's need. And we would do that by applying a formula in the background. So using that keyboard shortcut of F8 with permissions granted will allow you to access that formula editor, where I can put either some predefined formulas or I have the ability to freeform write a formula so that things are happening on my behalf in the background. Now, typically you would want to apply formulas to your template so that you're not having to add them to each and every single individual order. And just to give you some references on where you would use this formula editor, and if you have permissions granted, would be to put some formulas in place as far as tasking. We talked about our work list items. We know our order tasks that are specifically assigned to us will allow us to open up our work list items from our start page. Now, from within the checklist or requested task, I can access this formula editor and pull into place some predefined formulas. Well, right now, that formula editor will open up as a freeform, meaning I can write code directly in this box. You do have some pre-built formulas that are sitting and waiting for you to use. If you have permissions granted, a keyboard shortcut of Control O will also open up this formula dialog box where you have some predefined formulas in place, sitting and waiting for you to use. Now, it's a scrollable list, so you'll see that as I'm making my selections, it's going to give you a description of what these formulas would do. And I wanted to start with a predefined formula in my checklist task. What I can do is access that same drop-down list so that I can pull in that predefined formula based on tasking due dates. You'll see that I've got parameters that come into play once I choose that predefined formula of task due date from the drop-down list. From here, for this particular task of preparing the commitment, my in-house checklist task, I'm going to be able to set some parameters as far as when this particular task would be due and when that would be triggered. So I'd actually like my commitment to be completed no later than 5 days after, not that the order was created, but I'm going to use that drop-down list and choose once the task was created. I've also got options for requested. I want to see if I can pull that. We can pull in the requested date based on whenever we pull it in from creating the task itself. So once I've got the task pulled in, I want a due date automatically to populate so that I can track its progress based on this predefined formula of task due date. Now I can test this formula that I've currently got built. If I click on that execute, keyboard shortcut F5 if you've noticed, you'll see here that it has been able to run the formula for this particular tasking due dates based on the parameters that I have set in place. If I say OK and then click OK to close, you'll see that I already pulled in the task, pulling in that 5-date formula based on whenever I initially created, and I actually created it about 2 days ago, so a little bit behind as far as what you're seeing on the due date. But again, I could always come in, add them to the individual orders. I would actually want to set these up so that these tasking is already populating with my templates and apply to orders, but also those formulas already configured in the background. Now, if you wanted to utilize a pre-form formula, maybe I want to send fees to a specific line location or a particular area whenever I've got a closing disclosure settlement type. I can always, I'm going to access, just for the sake of training, my HOA charges and proration screens. And if I place my cursor in the fee line field, if you have permissions granted to that formula editor, I can use F8 as a function keyboard shortcut. Open up this formula editor. You'll see again, it opens up to my free form, meaning I can place code directly in this area. Remember, you can always pull from a list of predefined formulas that are sitting in waiting for you to use. That select CDF line is already set in place. If I scroll down, I'll show you what it looks like, but I had to click on that yellow folder. And here it is here. Once I select the formula or highlight the formula, it gives you a description of what it's going to do. And since it's already been saved, I could retrieve this. I've already got it set in place, but it does give you a description that it would send it to the next available line in my section H. And just before we move away from this keyboard shortcut of F8 to access your formula editor, know that yes, you can write that free form formulas directly in this area. You can also save these formulas to your quote unquote Rolodex of items that are predefined for you. You would want to use the save as. It's going to be the second diskette so that you could name it, save it in that predefined list located in this yellow folder. So again, permissions have to be in place. You would need to use your F8 function key to access that formula editor. You've got a few options as far as free form implementation of formulas. You've also got some predefined formulas sitting and waiting for you. Now I'm going to make my way back over to my express order entry screen. Ellen, let me know about those questions that are coming in. From my express order entry screen, my favorite keyboard shortcut of all times is this F2 function key. I always like to sing a little jingle to it, F2 it to remove it. F2 will not only remove your red text, but if on accident, or maybe I realize that I overrode black text, meaning it's pulling from somewhere, I needed to make a change to this brief legal, but maybe it's applicable everywhere. I would want to go back to those red text original fields, right, to make the change and have a trickle effect. So not only will F2 remove your red text, F2 will also restore a black text field. So I always say F2 it to remove it, F2 it to restore it. Remember, anytime you have new information available, you're going to be given a visual cue with that asterisk or a star in the right tab corner. Also, your quick access toolbar, you've got that diskette. I always say that it lights up or illuminates when you have new information. You can always save and bring your orders up to date, or these tab items up to date, by using your keyboard shortcut of Control S. Control S will save. Now, I can also access my documents via keyboard shortcut. Yes, we know we can access it directly from our order ribbon, but Control D will open up your documents tab. From here, I can always render a document. So I'm going to quickly drag over something that was in my favorites. Remember, anything you add to your favorites will always be sitting at the top waiting for you. You can always add a document by highlighting the document itself. It's got that little piece of paper icon as a visual cue, and then you can click on that gold star with a green plus sign. Remember, anything you add to your favorites is visible only to you and always sitting at the top of your available ready doc tree. Now, I know that if I preview this document, it's going to give me those order hotspots. So want to show you how you can utilize those hotspots. It gives you some agility as far as making changes. Here's where I am bouncing over to my brief legal description screen from my property screen. And I'm seeing a spelling error, but what if you needed to run a spell check? Well, F7 is a keyboard shortcut that will do just that. You can do that in any field. I just wanted to show you how we could use our hotspots to fact check ourselves. I'm seeing that I've got a spelling error right away. F7 will run that spell check, able to then go back over to my documents where, yes, I can refresh, but Keyboard shortcut of Control R will also refresh your document. It looks like I've got my mouse that is frozen. Give me just 1 second, guys. So sorry. I do apologize. Control R definitely refreshes the document. Looks like I've got a little bit of a glitch with my mouse. Again, Control R will definitely do that on your end. I apologize for the technical glitch you're seeing on Trainer Joe's end. Now, Control R will not only refresh a document, but it is also going to act as a secondary shortcut so that you can access your register. So if I click on Control R, here's where I'm making my way over to my register. Remember, anytime you have unsaved information and you access your register, it will automatically save. We know our proform orders are the boss of our register. We want that information to be up to date. Now, Control R will give you access to your register. It will also refresh a document. And something that I'm seeing right away is that I've got an empty check, meaning I've got empty order context screens. You've got a shortcut to make your way over to your order transaction screen. And this order transaction screen can be found at the bottom or towards the bottom of that escrow closing tab of screens. I like to use this order transaction screen because it gives me an aerial view of what's already sitting in my register. We know that I've got my receipts at the top, disbursements down at the bottom. Your disbursements with empty context screens will float to the top, so to speak. So keyboard shortcut to access this blank order context screen would be to place your cursor in the code field, and you're going to use your F5 function key so that you can make your way over to that order context screen. Again, you've got to have your cursor placed in the code field before you can use your F5. You're able to go to that order context screen. Yes, I see that it is blank. You also have a keyboard shortcut so that you can access your lookup table of contacts. That keyboard shortcut is going to be F9. So then I can retrieve by double clicking. I can use my keyboard shortcut of Control R so that I can see that trickle effect, meaning pulling in from my order, populating into my register. You'll see that I've now got a completed disbursement ready to go, pulling in not only the fees, but also the information and billing address needed for this particular payee. Now, going back to your order transaction screen, maybe I jumped the gun a little bit, but this order transaction screen gives me a preview of what's sitting in my register, gives you a, less clicks as far as bouncing back and forth, right? Although we had a shortcut or order transaction was directly available from that register transaction grid. From the screen or really anywhere in your order though, you can always access your loan funding summary. Keyboard shortcut is going to be F11. It's going to show your total deductions, your total credits, ultimately what is anticipated to be received from a party. In this case, it is my lender. F11 will open up this loan funding summary. So I'm able to see what's in my register, able to see what needs to be adjusted as far as a balancing perspective. Now, you do have an order balance screen. It is directly above that order transaction. If you are in any place within Select, F12 will take you to that order balance screen so that you can confirm the order is in balance before making your way into your register. You've also got a balance status bar at the top right-hand corner, so long as you have your My Screen set to the SoftPro Enhanced screens. Well, how do I know which screens I have? Well, we're going to access that order ribbon. It can be hard to miss. My Screens is to the right of your notes. You'll see that my Screens already has the SoftPro Enhanced screen set to default. Check that checkbox. It's a one-time thing, set it and forget it. So that wraps up the refresher in our keyboard shortcuts. Before I go into some general navigating tips and tricks, were there any questions coming in? Want to make sure I'm giving you guys the opportunity. Let me know, Ellen. I will keep going.
We are all set on the keyboard shortcuts for now. No
Beautiful.
questions.
Okay, so I am going to have two order tabs open just so that I can show you this next tip and trick that definitely you and your teams can use. So multiple tab items. I can actually split the screen so that I can do a side by side. I like to use this whenever I've got a canceled order. It's been pretty far in the duration of the transaction before it canceled. I've got a lot of documents that were retained in that canceled order. This property has now come back to life with a new buyer. I want to pull over the documentations in the canceled so that I'm not having to reinvent the wheel, right? So multiple tabs items. You can always split your screen. You've just got to pick your tab, any tab. You'll hold it with your cursor just like we did with our work list items until you see that docking icon appear. So again, I'm holding it with my cursor, the order tab, and I'm telling it where to go. And here is where I'm able to split my screen. I've got multiple orders. And again, I did that by having those multiple order tabs open. You've got to hold the tab with your cursor. Drag it towards the center. You'll get a docking icon that will appear and you will tell it where to go. So now I've got a side-by-side canceled orders here, destination order over on the right. I can access the order, my order attachment screens from here, where I can drag and drop all of the prior documents from my canceled order. Now, it looks like we've got the same thing going on a side-by-side. I've already started some work. Yes, I needed a deed. I have that in both orders, but what about all those other documents? So yes, I've got those subfolders. I can drag over the documents this way, or I can see everything all at once by placing my cursor in the search bar, and I'm going to hit my space bar and then my enter key on my keyboard. It's going to list out every single document and the subfolder in which it lives in. And from here, I'm able to drag side by side, sending it to where I need to go. I could also send it to the main landing screen and then drag it to its destination. But here's where I'm able to do a multi-view order. Here's where I'm able to see multiple documents. And here is where I'm saving time by just simply dragging and dropping where I need to go.
Joe, we do have one question.
Absolutely.
It might be back about keyboard shortcuts, but someone asked, is there a short key to open contact seller buyer?
Open the contact seller. Oh, do you mean as far as doing this, double clicking to opening it? That is actually not a keyboard shortcut. Let me know that I'm understanding the question right, but am I understanding that a keyboard shortcut to access like this?
I believe so. That's how I'm reading it.
Unfortunately, no, we've got to double click. That is an interesting idea. Gonna phone a friend so that I could add that to our Christmas wish list. That's a really good idea.
There you
But
go. And we actually have another question, which is, can you drag to another monitor like you showed with the work lists?
Oh, absolutely. I've got dual monitors that we can't see here, but absolutely. Once I have that pin pushed on the right, it'll keep it from auto collapsing. I'm able to hold it with my cursor. I can leave it completely separated. I'm actually dragging it over to my second monitor that I've got connected now. You can't see it, but yes, I am able to do that. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so we did the multi-order view. It's the same thing as you're seeing with my work list. You've got to hold that tab, or in this case with my work list items, that collapsible pane. I like to hold the tab corner, right? Hold it with my cursor, start dragging it towards the center so that you can see that docking icon appear. Now, I just took the liberty of dragging all of the previous documents from my canceled file. I was able to do that with that multi-order view, again, holding the tab with my cursor, dragging towards the center of my screen. And now that I've done that, I want to use that keyboard shortcut of Control S one more so that I make sure all these documents that I just moved over into my new file stuck. And again, at this point, I'm able to drag documents where I needed them to go. What if I couldn't remember where I placed those documents? Well, again, you've got that search bar over at the top right-hand corner. You can search by title, but if you want to see everything, hit your space bar and then your enter key. It's going to disclose any and all documents that sit in your order attachments. And again, I love this tip and trick, so to speak, but use that space bar in your enter key because now that I'm able to see everything, no matter which folder it's in, I'm now able to select multiple items. So what I'm doing is I'm highlighting my documents, I'm using my control key, I'm selecting multiple documents no matter which folder they are. I couldn't do that with that collapsed view. Here I am if I go to my accounting, these are the only docs that I could pull together. So hence the beauty of that tip for you. Place your cursor in that search bar, hit your space bar and then your enter key. It discloses any and everything, and then it allows you to select multiple items. You've got to highlight and use your control key. Now from here, I know that I can preview these documents. I can print, I can copy. I can print and copy, but here's where I wanted to go into that email functionality. But if I click on email, it does give you a scrollable list of all of the email addresses that have been sitting and waiting for you to use in your order contact screen so far. What if I've yet to add an email address or a contact in this order I need to send out in this, let's say it's a lender title package. Let's say I didn't add that loan officer there. Well, I actually don't have to pull in any message recipients. I can simply click OK. It's going to open up to my Outlook email. You'll see here I've got those separate PDF files based on the multiple documents that we selected because we used our space bar and our enter key in the search bar. Does give you a default email subject line, include your order number, seller, buyer, address. But from here, I am able to email anybody and everybody, and it doesn't matter who's in my order contact screen. Now you want to apply your signature. Maybe you need to adjust your formatting. So if it's not giving you the pretty text, you may need to click on your format text tab and switch from plain text to an HTML. But from here, able to email anybody and everybody. I didn't need to choose a recipient from that email order contact screen. Now, since
Hey, Joe, we have a few questions. Can I cut in really quickly?
Absolutely. What can I do?
Okay. The first one is actually a clarification on the last question that I asked about if you can drag to another monitor like you showed with the work list. And what they meant was, can you do that in the Proform tab with 2 files?
It will not. So, yep, you'll see I'm actually trying to attempt to drag it. It only allows us to do a side-by-side or split within the actual select screen. So we actually can't have 2 tab orders opened on our dual monitor. And I think I like that one better than accessing our order. Wondering if double clicking our order context, but that's interesting too. I like that. For now, not at this time. That is something that I also want to make note of. I think that'd be an interesting functionality. But right now, all we can do is a side by side.
And someone asked if you can drag the attachments over to another screen.
That actually won't allow you to separate it. You'll see that I'm still in my order tab, even when I'm in my Express. Here's where I'm in my Express order entry. If I jump over to my attachments, it's still not its own separate tab, so we won't be able to have your attachments opened at the same time as your order or a particular order screen.
Okay, another question, when you move from one file to another, do you have to move the attachments one at a time, or can you hold control and move all attachments from a folder at one time?
Absolutely. So let me go back into my order attachments of the secondary so that I can hit my space bar and my enter key in this search bar. Here's where I'm able to hold my control and shift key, and here's where I'm able to drag over multiple documents.
Okay, perfect. And we have another question. I'm not sure if this is a universal thing, but they say sometimes their screen adjusts and minimizes the size of the letters and numbers. Is there any way to readjust that without having to close the application and reopen it?
Say that again. Are you meaning font size?
I believe so, yeah. Changes the font size of like letters and numbers. So I'm not sure if that's a universal issue or if that may just be specific to a computer or something like that.
Let me dig into that. I haven't seen that, but let me ask someone that, has seen it all, so to speak, and let me see what they've encountered during that experience. I'm going to make note of that. We'll pull your information from the registration list.
Perfect. Yep, we'll follow up on that. Okay, that is it for now.
Awesome. Okay, so talking about our order attachments, we know we can drag multiple documents. You've got to have that expanded view, meaning you're going to this search bar, hitting your enter key so that you see any and everything. Control Shift will allow you to choose multiple documents as you are dragging and dropping when you've got that side by side. Some other things that you can do are annotation features. So we know that if I'm highlighted on a document, I can select that annotation functionality from the bar within my attachment screen. I can also right-click a document. I've got the same ribbon of functionality. From my annotations, you'll see that I've got, from the annotated view, you'll see that I've already got some annotations set in place. Let me actually exit this so that I can go into a blank document. Here we go. Now I'll place that in edit mode. You'll see that I can apply a sticky note or a post-it note of information. I can always highlight very important text. I've got the option to apply text box. Again, it'll say insert text here. You can always enter what you need. You've got an option to give yourself some line arrows. Maybe you're marking up a settlement package. You've got to show them where they need to apply those signatures or notarization of documents. My favorite is this stamps option. So I'm actually going to go to where there's, here we go, some clear space. I'm going to use this stamps drop down, and you can create and customize these stamps to your heart's desire. We can get as creative as we want to if you have permissions granted to SP admin. My favorite stamp is the true and certified copy stamp that I've created, again, in SP admin, my rubber stamps manager. You can always resize any stamp that's been applied. And you also have a means to have your digital signature installed. So essentially what Trainer Jo has done was created and executed a true and certified copy. It's actually just that, executed, and I was able to do that without having to get up from my desk. So I love annotations. We're able to mark up those documents, kind of take the place as a copy and scanner like we used to do back in the day. So I love the stamps, love that digital signature. And again, I was able to do that by placing a document from my order attachments in annotation mode. Now, ideally, what you would want to do is maybe have two sets of documents, right? You can always right click to copy. You could copy using that same functionality above. But what happens if you marked up a document that you forgot to copy, right? So it was your only copy in order attachments. Well, if I place it back in annotation mode, here's where I've got that. Here's some additional stamps that Trainer Jo has. You'll see I've got one that even has some formula configured where it's pulling the date and the user that it's applying the stamp. If I needed to get rid of these annotations, should have made a copy so that I had a blank and then a markup copy I could provide my customer. If I place it back in annotation mode, yes, you can highlight the applied stamps and then delete them. You could also use this annotations icon. It's up at the top right-hand corner. It allows you to toggle back and forth between your annotation markup visibility. So now you see it. Pushing on the button. Now you don't. Now you see it. Now you don't. Now we had an enhanced version of Select released pretty recently and wanted to show you how fantastic those enhancements are. Just, as you walk through your orders, you'll notice them. It's also going to come in handy. So let's start with our order contacts. If I made my way into my seller order contact, you'll notice that one, it is an organization. I now have the ability with this Select version 4.3.66 to toggle back and forth between an individual without the loss of data. So if I go from an organization to an individual, it will retain the first two individual people contacts that you have within the corporate officer signees grid. So if I actually switch over to an individual, you see it pulls up those two officers from that people's grid without the loss of data, even including their email and contact information down below. Could actually even just switch back to an organization. Again, it pulls in those people contacts back down to my corporate officer and signees grid. The loss of minimal information. Really, I'm just typing in the organization all over again, but allows you to toggle back and forth without the loss of data. You've also got a preview of how your Schedule A current vesting is going to read. You'll see here that once I've toggled to an individual from that organization, gives me a preview or an adjusted view of my current vesting. In fact, I've got a hyperlink that I can click on that will take me into that Schedule A screen, gives me all the visual cues. You are here whenever you use those hyperlinks within your select order. Here is where I can review and compare to my vesting deed. I know that if I don't want changes from my order context screen to affect this current vesting of my Schedule A, I'm going to override that black text. I know that it matches, so if I just hit my space bar, black text now turns red, and any changes made here aren't going to affect my current vesting of my Schedule A screen. In fact, if I switch over back to an organization, you'll see my current vesting has not adjusted back to the organization itself, still retaining the 2 individuals. And again, that was because I used that hyperlink, made my way over to my commitment Schedule A, placed my cursor in the field, overrode that black text once I found that it matched my vesting. Another really cool thing about your order contacts are that the outgoing wire information fields have been updated so that they include additional fields as far as an intermediary bank name, intermediary bank number, as well as a beneficiary bank, and then a beneficiary bank number. You've got those 4 additional fields. You've also got fields over on the right-hand side that are based on permissions granted, but allow those teammates that have permissions granted to verify those wiring instructions. Now, this information will also populate into the bank details tab of your pending disbursements of your order register. And you'll see here that I've got verified outgoing wiring information for my seller proceeds now. Again, the verification fields are permission based, and they'll actually clear out the moment that you make any changes to either the intermediary bank name and number or that beneficiary banker number. You'll see that I removed that intermediary bank number. My verification fields have cleared. That is going to prompt me to pick up the phone and re-verify based on the changes that I made to either of those 4 fields. Now, your other contacts will also have that information. So if I actually access my selling broker, it's directly underneath my seller. You have that outgoing wire information, those additional fields of the intermediary bank name and number. Same thing for that beneficiary bank number, and then verification fields over on the right-hand side with secondary permission. In addition, those individual contacts have the same bank details. It's going to have a tab in the individual contact itself of the people's grid. Second tab, once you open that edit person, I've got not only my outgoing wire information field, but also wire verification that my teammates can use to verify that banking information so long that permission is granted. I also can really appreciate the enhancements we've made as far as the errors and warnings messaging. I know that if I come over and try to delete a contact that is tied into a fee, you'll see that it's going to let me know you can't delete it, but it's going to tell me why. You'll see here that it's actually got some commission that has been split out to. It's telling me that it's for commission. It looks like they split it out on that fee line in section H. Would do that with any other contact. So if I remove that HOA management company, I'm going to get the same red error telling me I can't delete. It's just taking a secondary step to tell me why. So if I truly needed to remove this contact, I've got to remove that transfer fee out of my HOA charges and prorations. So lots of visibility as to why we can't move forward, especially whenever we're deleting our contacts. It's letting me know lender fees are associated in the following lines as indicated by that asterisk. Now, again, those additional outgoing wire fields, as well as the wire verification fields, are also going to be populated not only in those order context screens, but within the register themselves. You'll see here that I now got an empty check of seller proceeds right away. But if I double click, actually, let's double click our commission for our selling broker. Here's that second tab, all that information pulling in black. Why? Because it was completed in our order context screen. It has that trickle effect. Now, again, I can review anything. Remember, if I adjust anything, it will go and clear out the wire verification fields, prompting me to pull that information or re-verifying that info. Another thing that I really like are these additional note columns. So if I go in, you'll see I've got a note column, but I can actually input a note. Let's access this HOA transfer fee. I've got a note tab where I can add a note. You'll see it will appear in that note column. It gives better visibility or more visibility as to maybe why you're holding something, maybe why something's been voided, something post-closing related, need an invoice or missing the final invoice. I love that you can not only add a note directly in the column, but if you're accessing the actual pending receipt or disbursement itself, the note tab is the third once you open the dialog window of the pending receipt or disbursement. Now, if you were adding a note to an already posted item, it would prompt you as to asking you why you made a change. And again, you would see that if you're avoiding your stop pay, if you've already posted an item and adding a note, it will ask you why you're making a change to the already posted item.
Quick question on this, Joe.
Absolutely.
Someone asks if it's a check disbursement, does that note transfer to the check?
I don't believe it places it in the memo field. Let me make sure. Yep, it sure does not. Wanted to make sure it wasn't pulling here. Nope, it's internal purposes only.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, all righty. Now, the last enhancement that I wanted to highlight were also in this register, but I've also got an additional code, not only for notes, but the order contact codes. Very contact code driven, right? So this code field is great. We're able to see which code it was sourced from. Again, that's just dependent on how you're learning your system. If we know L equals lender and we're not caring about what the lender, this code field, just gives us visibility on what we'd be used to seeing from our order context screens and even on the code fields of our statements that we'd be building. Now, before we wrapped up this second part of Select Tips and Tricks, I wanted to give you guys a preview of some exciting things we're cooking up and on the horizon. Again, just want to show you what's coming so that we can get you excited, have you guys coming back and see us for the next episode where we'll dive into the specifics, but want to show you of what's to come. So if I made my way back over to my order context, lots of enhancements with order context, right? But we've got some further things in the mix where you're going to be able to combine contacts as well as split contacts. So right now I've got a few buyers, right? Let's talk about combining our contacts first since we're on this main contact screen. So I've got buyer 1, buyer 2. Here is a new functionality where I can combine my contacts. You'll see that whenever I have contacts that have the availability to be combined, they will appear in this next screen. So Homer's going to be combined with Marge. I say okay. You'll see here that it's giving me the information that will be combined with Homer. It's also letting me know that any information that I had in the outgoing wire information column, that bar that could be expanded, will be lost. It's also letting me know that it's going to delete the second buyer of Marge Bouvier Simpson. So do I want to proceed? I'm going to say yes to move through the window or move through that action. You'll see here that it's got Marge. Here is where they've been combined over into one, Homer and Marge. Again, any information that I have as far as the outgoing wire information, you saw that warning, will be lost. It would delete the second contact, but want to show you how you can combine individual contacts into one directly from your order contact screen. Now that goes with splitting contacts. So here is where I've got a third buyer, Bart and Lisa. Right now they are combined, but I can always split them from within the buyer contact itself. Here's where I've got Bart and Lisa listed. Here's where I can split this contact. It will let you know that it's going to split them into two. So I'm going to have different codes, B3 and B4. Do I want to proceed? I'm going to say yes. You'll see Bart is now solo. If I made my way over into my order context screen, here's Bart B3, here's Lisa as B4. So able to combine contacts that are listed as individuals, able to split contacts from within the order context screen whenever they are listed as joint and don't need to be. In our tasking, we've got some enhancements that are in the works. If we are going to assign a checklist task or a requested task, we know that we can highlight the task from within the screen, go below the grid and assign it to someone. It's just now we've got it in the works that where it's going to pull in the assigned, not only the person that you're assigning it to, excuse me, but who they've been listed as far as their role within the order context screen. So you'll see on my end, here's the current user that's logged in, but here's where Jo Vicknair has also been designated as the escrow officer in my order information screen. I've got the same for any designated title officers, escrow assistants. It's just including that in parentheses, that role with a particular user that appears in this drop-down list, so long as they've been designated in this order information screen. So just some additional visibility. And speaking of additional visibility, we've got some enhancements coming our way as far as our prorations and the information that's disclosing. Now, this will only apply to our CDF transactions only, but you'll see in my county tax proration screens, I've already kind of taken the liberty of prorating some taxes, but down below, this will be a new feature. It's going to disclose that proration date. You'll see here that my proration through the beginning of the year through August 12th, so it's going to be through the date of the 12th up to my closing date that was pulling from my express order entry screen of August 13th. So it gives you some additional visibility as to what's being prorated and the dates disclosed. Your order register is going to have some new enhancements coming our way soon, in that your pending outgoing wires. So whenever you've got an outgoing wire, we know, and actually maybe I should have went to my order context screen, right? But if I go into my payoff lender, we know that we've got our outgoing wire information where we can include this accounting information, take it a further step with verifying over on the right with permissions granted, but we've got a review process in the works for outgoing wires whenever there's missing information. So if it was missing a bank name, the ABA routing number, the credit account name, the credit account number, and anything missing from special instructions, it will pull or flag this pending outgoing wire to be reviewed in your order register. So I'm actually going to make my way back into my register. I'm going to pretend like I'm dispersing this transaction. So I'm going to use that print and post. I'm going to use that print and post pending disbursement. You'll see a new column, needs review. I've got a lot of yeses, one no. So my payoff lender wasn't missing anything. I had my bank name, my ABA routing number, my account name, the account number, and special instructions completed. If any of those pending outgoing wires are missing any of that, it will add a column and say, yes, we need it to be reviewed. Now, we will have an option to skip if we don't want that review wire process to occur, but picking up that it's missing information again from the order context screen, want to keep driving home that our pro form orders are the boss of our register. Anything happening in our orders, anything that's to happen in our register has to take place in our order first. So just some secondary steps as far as reviewing your wires. You do have an option to skip. Those are some things we've got coming your way soon. The last thing that I wanted to show off, go ahead. Sorry, did you have a question?
We had a few questions come through over the last few minutes you were talking. So first we had someone ask, are we going to be able to adjust the order of the buyers, for example, turn buyer 4 into buyer 1?
I haven't been made aware of that just yet. Again, it's still in the works. I would need to ask, but right now I'm not seeing that we could adjust the order in which they appear. We've just got options to combine or split them. But again, we can look into that. I know this information hasn't been given out yet, just trying to give you a sneak peek of what's going on. I will look into that. I'm sure we'll have a lot of announcements coming your way once these enhancements are going to be released.
Okay.
Okay.
Someone else asks, is it possible to assign a pop-up note to a specific user so it only pops up to a pertinent person instead of everyone opening the file?
Not at this time. So yes, anytime that you're adding a note, you elect to have that note displayed any and every time the order is opened. At this time, we don't have the capability to designate that note appearing only for one. Maybe that's a Christmas wish list item too. I think that's also a really interesting idea. Not just yet though, so bear with us.
Okay, and then someone else asks for assigning the tasks and showing the role. Is that only for manually picking the assign to, or will that also pull in when it's coming from the database using the field code, or does it
It
only
will.
show in the dropdown?
It will pull that in. It will. I'm not sure if it pulls it. No, it won't show in parentheses. I'm looking at the parentheses and I know I designated. I'm not seeing that in my assigned to column. So I'm thinking as of now, it's just going to appear in the drop down list if we're going to be manually assigning that to someone.
Okay. And then someone just asked if Margie was added to Homer, why is she still listed as a separate contact?
Yeah, I think what happens is I had a relationship status. Again, this is just something that isn't released yet, but I was thinking that it's because I had a status for Marge that she was, nope, it cleared that for her. That's something I need to go look into, but I'm wondering if it will remove it whenever I exit. We've got to see what the trainer error was. So I saw that it combined them, why it didn't remove. I've got to go see what was filled in that shouldn't. So I can definitely get into that. I'm sure they will also give you all of the specifics as to when parties are eligible to be combined and split, and kind of the semantics or the things that those individual things that are applicable.
And someone asked if you could show the combined contacts again and how you select the contacts to combine them.
Sure. So right now I've got two contacts. We'll see if we can combine Bart and Lisa. We think something's going on with Marge, right? Something funny. But all I did was highlight. You'll see that if I combined, it's going to pop open. It looks, see, something interesting with my B2. I've got to see what Trainer Jo has done, but it does give me a list of all applicable buyers in this case that can be combined. Let's see what happens with Marge if I leave it at Marge. Here's where it's letting me know. Again, I'm going to lose some information as far as those custom outgoing wire fields. Just saying yes. And definitely seeing that I've got something that I shouldn't have just on this error alone. But here's where I was able to combine Homer and Marge into one.
Okay.
And again, let's see if we can combine someone else. Probably not. Nope. Oh, I can combine back with Marge. I really do think this B2, I've pulled in something as I was playing around that I shouldn't have. I'd have to go retrace my steps. But whenever you elect a contact, you choose to combine, it will give you or prompt a list of the eligible contacts that are able to be combined.
Okay, great. And then there's a question on for reviewing disbursements, can you program it to not have to review at all? For example, review ledger name screen if ledger name lives in order contacts.
Say that last part for me one more time.
They say, for example, review ledger name screen if ledger name lives in order contacts.
Well, yes, whenever there's complete, so it will only do this for your outgoing wire, guys, and it's only looking to see if the fields in your order contact screen, your bank name, ABA, account number, account name, special instructions, if either of those 5 fields have missing info in your order contact screen, it will prompt a review, needs review, just let you know yes or no. And then if we want to skip it, we could check that checkbox. As far as skipping everything, I don't have information to that yet. We can certainly look into that and get back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. The last thing that I just wanted to show you as a preview were that we were going to be able to adjust the options or the column of options that we see in our register. So if I'm in my register, I'm looking at my transaction grid. If I click on options, there'll be a keyboard shortcut coming your way of Control-O. You'll see that it opens up to this next screen, and right now I've got all this information currently in view. Here's where I'm able to customize my register columns of data as needed. Then of course, we'll have an option to restore our defaults. Again, not available just yet, just want to show you what we've got cooking. So that's all I had for select tips and tricks. Just wanted to add that last segment of things we've got in the works so that you come back and see us. If you have any questions, make your way over to that questions inbox now. Remember, you can always access help no matter where you are, what time of day within Select. Also by keyboard shortcut of F1. You can always use that questions icon at the top right. My favorite is F1. Either one will open up to that help web where you are going to open up to a welcome page. Remember, you can save this to your favorites. We've been working on those tips and tricks out of Proform. So if I click on that subtopic of Proform, we've got a list of options to choose from, but all Proform related. Any of these selections will then take you to a final screen where we've always got short videos of instructions starting on the left, pre-recorded webinars that you can view at your leisure, and we're always changing these up, but any webinars that are available to be viewed at your own leisure will be in the middle. Job aids with picture references that will walk you through a particular process will always be on the right-hand side, and that was F1 for help. Don't forget to save this help website to your favorites. Thanks for having me, everyone. Let me know what you guys need. Ellen, you see anything else coming in?
Thanks so much, Joe. We do have a couple final questions. Someone asks, is there a way to save buyer-seller contact in an LLC type?
So I know that we can save our seller contacts to a lookup table. I'm thinking that you're asking if you have all your corporate officer and signees, will they be pulled up here? Let me see. If I don't think that it was doing that. I thought that I had tested out, but let me just kind of faux some information. So I'm going to access my lookup table, blue underlined text. Remember, F9 is a keyboard shortcut. I'm going to insert that entry. I don't think it was a code. I'm not seeing that information here, where it's going to include those people. I think it's just including the organization as a whole. We'd have to add in those individual contacts.
Okay. I think for the most part, we covered all the other questions. I know there were a few we were going to follow up on after the webinar. So if your question was not addressed live here, we will follow up with you. If anyone has any additional questions that you didn't ask during the webinar, feel free to, you can shoot an email to marketing@softprocorp.com and we'll make sure it gets to the right folks to give you an answer. And just a reminder that today's episode was recorded. It'll be made available on our blog. And thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we will see you for the next Saved You a Seat webinar. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.